Right. So we've ran into a fairly significant hiccup here, folks. Welcome back to part 3 of this Airtekk air ride suspension install I'm doing on my 1992 coupe. Today's a big day. We're going to be installing the Airtekk air struts, Airtekk air bags, and Airtekk rear adjustable shocks in my car. Now, I got a feeling I'm going to have to be doing some fabrication. Okay, now this will not pertain to everyone that is installing one of these Airtekk kits. I have a set of upper and lower rear tubular control arms on this car, and I think they're going to give me some grief when I go to attach the bags to the lower section, the lower rear control arm. So more on that after. First things first, we're going to get the car up in the air, get the springs out of it, and see what we're dealing with. Right, so upon closer inspection, I do have to remove my rear lower control arms. This does not pertain to everyone. If you're running stock stamped lower rear control arms, you can skip this step. In my case, I can't. So you've seen me remove the sway bar. I actually have to loosen my passenger side exhaust because the muffler runs quite tight to my lower control arms. But this is all why. So you can see here, this bag is all inversed right now. This is all the bottom side of the bag, but the way this bag mounts is through a washer and a bolt through your control arm to the bottom side of this bag. Again, stock lower control arms, it's been a long time since I've seen them, but I'm positive. They're hollow and you can run a bolt through them. My tubular ones are not hollow. They're solid all the way through with just a plate that the spring sits on. I did a quick look online. Steeda makes a square tubular set that has like a hollow hole through it. There's a couple. Anyway, in my case, I'm not so lucky. So I need to pull them out and fab this all up, drill some holes. I think I might even work with some flat steel versus that round washer. I'll show you guys all that, what I'm gonna be doing. But after all of this, we'll get back to just the standard rear bag install, which should be straightforward. In my case, it's not gonna be, but maybe you are installing one of these kits and you've got different rear lower control arms and you got to do something like this. So follow along if you need some ideas. Okay guys, here's a little bit better look at what I was talking about now that the control arm's out. So this washer and bolt, in theory, need to do this in order to mount this bag to the top side. And you can see here, I've even still got this ring on here, right? Kind of a spring perch type deal that holds the old coil in place. Well, I gotta buzz that off, and I also need to drill a hole straight through this plate and this piece of tube. All right, folks, holes drilled, and I've also buzzed off the old spring perch. Splashed some black paint on it just to keep whatever elements that the car may see out of this raw steel situation. So now what's going to happen is I'm gonna ditch this big washer because I think what would happen is this would work good in a stock format. However, I'm gonna replace it with a lock and a flat that I've got here at the shop. We'll run those through and attach our bag that way. Got both sides back in. They are drilled, buzzed off, and painted. I've just got the bolts finger tight, right? We want to tighten those lower control arm bolts up once we've got some weight on the car. Now, it is 1 in the morning, just about 5 after 1. And I'm probably in shit at home because I gotta be up at like 5:30 tomorrow morning and take my kids to Ringette, which I'll get out of the wrapper. No worries there, but probably gonna hear about it. So anyway, I'm gonna leave this one here, guys. We'll come back tomorrow, put the rear bags in, hopefully get after the struts in the front and rear shocks, and then we can plug this thing all in, give it some power, and see what type of movement we can get out of it. So stand by, guys. We'll see you in the morning. Okay, guys, we're back at her. Now, I was talking to a online Foxbody buddy of mine, One Sick Fox on Instagram. Super nice fella. He's got a two-tone GT that has the Airtekk bags and struts on it. And he was kind enough to reach out to me and forewarn me about a situation I may run into here when installing the bags in the back of the car. So now what he told me is I might run into clearance issues because this male end, okay, needs to fit into this female end on the car. And he said that he ran into clearance issues with this fitting into the perch on the car. So now I'm going to show you here. It seems as though I'm running into a similar situation. So what he told me he used, and I think he's probably onto something here, is this is a cheap exhaust pipe expander, okay? The larger edition, I think this will go up to 3.5 inches. Put it in your hole, spin away, it expands and makes holes larger. Now, I initially thought that I might just take a die grinder and buzz some of the material out of there because I was worried about upsetting, well, the OEM part, right? But when you look at what's there, because this tapers in, I'm definitely not going out as wide as what's up here, okay? That circumference is gonna stay the same. I'm only gonna bring this out, the tapered section, ever so slightly. I'm actually gonna maybe put a note into Airtekk there and let them know about this because obviously all these cars are slightly different, okay? So maybe the car that they used as a test mule was slightly, had a bigger opening, I guess, I don't know. Anyway, this is just something to be aware of as you go down this road. You may have to open up your upper perch a little bit in order to get the bag to seat. Okay, both sides are now in. Okay, both bags and both perches have been opened and honed. Now, next thing is, while I've got my diff down low, I need to pull the pinion bump stop out while I have the room to work in here, okay? So before I put my shocks and stuff in. That pinion bump stop is going to be a massive limiting factor to how low I can get this car in the rear. Another couple areas here are these axle tube bump stops. Now, they aren't as limiting as the pinion bump stop, but you've got 2 axle tube bump stops as well. I've got a feeling that those may need to get buzzed down as well. But the pinion bump stop is the #1 limiting factor. And like I say, while I got the room in here to work, I'm gonna buzz that thing off there and I'll give you a look at it. We'll see how much we wanna shave off of it. Okay, and here's the pinion bump stop. Sits in the car like so. It bolts to this mount, okay, just a single bolt. Now this can be the #1 limiting factor behind trying to get your car nice and extra low. So final product, we've cut pretty much, well, inch and a bit off, I guess you could say. I also buzzed this little section off, okay, so this typically lives here. So if I didn't cut that off, there wouldn't be much bump stop because this is metal with just rubber wrapped around it. So anyway, cut that off, and this is now my new cushion. All right, folks, bags are in. And I'll be honest with you, well, I did it myself for starters. So, you know, floor jack, bring it up, work one side, work the other. This driver's side went in a little easier than the passenger side. So you see the angle that the bag is on? Well, as you're jacking up, obviously the bag wants to stay this way. So you're kind of folding it over and into the perch. And for whatever reason, the angle that I was coming in on the passenger side just fought me. So we finally got it in there. And yeah, it seems to be liking its new home. I did have to mooch the edge of the perch out ever so slightly. For those of you that don't know this trick, right? Just take yourself a crescent wrench, open it up to the thickness of the steel that you're working with, right? And you can hook it on there and like bend it out if you need to. So I just did a little bit of that and worked it over enough to get the bag in there. So they're in their perch. And I mean, obviously I don't have the weight of the vehicle on it yet, so still have to do that. Now I'm getting to a critical point here where obviously if I just put the tires on now, well, I've got to hook my lines up and everything, but if I put the lines on now, set the car down, I'm going to have my wheel stuffed up in my wheel well. I'm pretty much at the point now where I need to air this thing up so I can get the back end back down. Okay, moment of truth. We're going to try and air up the back of the car, run these compressors and everything for the very first time. So, liven that up. Now I've just, before these compressors, well, hopefully fire up, I've just loosely connected everything. Looks like a complete rat's nest, but, and I've only got the rear lines connected to the manifold. I'm hoping that the manifold, yeah, it should have some sort of a shut off that won't allow air to leak out to the front two lines. So, here we go. So far, so good. Geez, those are nice and quiet, actually. Well, they're deeper than I thought. I figured more of a high pitch. We now officially have air. So I'm guessing this middle button fills up both sides if I go, yeah, so that button fills the other side. Cool. And then in the cab, oh, I think I'm gonna run this actually. This right now is ran off like constant 12 volt. I think I'm gonna wire this up to be on accessory. But let's just check out. Oh shit, there goes the compressor again. See what goes on in these gauges. So if no air. Now if I fill the rear left, rear right, dump both. See how nicely they both fill at the same time. Oh wow. Look at that. Cool. If I did this, it dumps everything, I think. Very neat. That's fast, too. Right, so we've ran into a fairly significant hiccup here, folks. Right when I thought I was off to the races, right, back is actually sitting on its own air right now. Going to bolt the front struts in, which in theory should be straightforward. However, we've hit yet another roadblock. So, long story short, I'm going to reach out to Airtekk and have a conversation with them because either something got mixed up in my order or there's a bit of an oversight here, because you guys have already seen me kind of have to alter my upper spring perch in the rear. Not the end of the world. It's fairly easy to fix, but for the average person bolting this together with nothing more than a set of hand tools, that is gonna hurt you. And then furthermore, this will hurt you as well. And I don't think this kit is intended to be altered in order to work with your car. This is a Foxbody kit. So with all of that being said, here's what we got going on. So everything's tore out of the car, right? Strut, spring, and I'm ready to go in with the air strut, okay? I've pulled my top plate off. These were still the stock plates. These have never been off my car. You can still see the other one over there. They still got the rivets, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, pulled that, drilled the rivet, and go to bolt my strut up in there. Okay, and now the way these work is they bolt in from the bottom side. So this whole plate essentially mates up with the bottom side of your shock tower. And then you run the bolts through that they supply and you nut them down and off you go. Well, here's my top plate, okay, my stock top plate, and I'm going to show you a little something here. So first things first, before I get too deep into this, you can see that like there is not a lot of room to utilize. There's actually 4 holes that come in this bottom plate that you can pick from to mess around with your alignment of your car, right? Well, I've come to find that the only way that you can spread these bolts out is right beside each other. Okay, you couldn't like skip this hole and run this bolt in over here. It won't work because there's not enough clearance in this hole. So those need to be ran side by side, and even still, you can see there's not a lot of room for error, okay? Now, some of you have probably already caught on to this, but if you look down at the actual, at the actual bolt holes, you know, these would mirror what's in the top of my shock tower. You can see that this plate does not line up with the holes very well, right? And I mean, you can twist this around in various formats, but I've tried it a few times. Like, you always run into one of these holes not lining up. So I just got off the phone with the Infamous project. I'm like, dude, have you ever ran into this before? Like, you know, call a buddy type thing, right? Because two heads are better than one. And we had a little FaceTime call there, and what we kind of came up with was, he goes, why don't you put these two plates, like, long story short, something's got to change, and I don't want it to be my car, okay? I don't want to be hogging out the 3 holes in the top of my shock tower. That's for damn sure. So the next thing would be hogging out this plate and changing it so that my holes line up with my factory holes, right? So that's what I think we're going to do. And then tomorrow, it's like 9:30 at night right now, so I can't call Airtekk. Tomorrow I'm going to phone Airtekk and say, first and foremost, do I have the correct plate? And if I do, you know, can we manufacture something that actually fits the shock tower of a Foxbody better than the plate you've provided? Because this does not work all that well, right? And actually, you know, the more I think about this, you actually cannot twist this one way or another, because the way the shock tower is shaped, all of this needs to fit in there squarely. So what I think we're going to do here is line this up in such a way that, you know, you take a little bit out of each hole type thing, and see if we can't get this plate to line up with the OEM shock tower holes. Stand by, guys. We're putting on the goggles and busting out the die grinder. Back at her here, next day. I don't even want to admit to you how much time I have invested in this plate, in and out of the car, and test fitting and grinding and die grinder and whatever. So I have splashed some paint on this so it's ready to go in here today. But I mean, I've cut here. Let's just put this guy over top of here, and you can more or less get a sense for how much material I've removed. So that whole side's been removed. It's also beveled over so it fits in the shock tower nicely, because the shock towers aren't square or 90 degrees like this. They're kind of rounded. So that has been taken into effect. Obviously these holes have all been mooched out. This one I left alone, and I can get away with that. But this guy and this guy have both been treated to the die grinder treatment. I'm really hoping I don't have to get as aggressive with the passenger side, because, like I say, the time invested in this is quite significant. So, not ideal, but it will work. I'm going to run some big washers so I can essentially clean up some of the material that I've had to remove and still get a good bite on these. Now the nice part with these plates, And for any out there panicking over, you know, the way these have been altered, this plate, the load is on the bottom side of this plate, okay? So this whole plate takes load up and into the shock tower, right? So it's not the end of the world that, you know, this guy's been opened up like that. It's not ideal, but it's not, you know, a deal breaker. So this one now fits. It is still very, very, very tight. However, it works. Like I mentioned to you, I've got a call into Airtekk, so we're going to try and figure this out. See if maybe I got the wrong plate or whatever, or if I can trace this plate out and provide them with a template that seems to work a little bit better. Whatever. That's all in the background. But for now, I'm going to get this driver's side back in, and then we're going to start on the passenger side again. Hopefully I don't have to get as aggressive with the passenger side, but we'll see. So we'll get this driver's side in and hopefully get this thing down on the ground here today. But I just wanted to give you guys a quick little look at what's going on here. So I have ultimately got my line attached, and all of that seems to be in place and out of harm's way. Here's how the top turned out. Very, very tight fit, but everything fits in there after top plate alterations. Fan favorite on the channel.
Hi.
The Sadybug. Down here helping Dad?
I think.
How was school?
Good.
Yeah? Are you gonna help me get these parts installed?
Maybe.
Or are you just gonna color? What are you building here?
Trying to say thank you, firefighters.
Oh, for looking after us during the fire. That's very kind of you. All right, guys. Here's the story on the passenger side. So I'm all tore down, and I've got my top plate from the air strut up in there. Now, I'll take you up top and show you what we're dealing with. In a similar fashion to the driver's side.
Can I spell firefighters?
Hold on, buddy. Okay. We're dealing with the exact same situation where holes don't line up. I got this front one here to line up, but I can't get my back two. Here, let me give you a look like this. So you can see where the plate doesn't exactly line up with my back two holes. Might even be easier to see from the bottom side here. So looks like we're busting out the die grinder again. Actually, it's a good thing I didn't put it away, because yeah, we're doing some more grinding. Now, the tricky part with this is, I'm going to use the driver's side as an example. The tolerances to get these little set screws to mount your air strut to your plate is so tight inside the hole of the shock tower that you got to be bang on. So again, oh God, I got just tools and shit everywhere. I need to be mindful of that when I kind of set this all up to be ground out. So I need to make sure that I've got enough clearance to get the bolt heads past this big hole in my shock tower. Like that other side. It's crazy how tight it is. You almost don't think it'll work, and then you kind of wiggle it, jiggle it, and hold your tongue in the right way, and it goes. So I'm going to kind of trace this out with a Sharpie. and then clamp these two together like I did on the other side, and then die grind the bottom, this plate, out to match these holes, and that will be how my plate's going to mount. Okay, passenger side plate complete. Just to give you an idea how much material I removed off of this side. And then obviously this is all laying all over the floor in metal shavings. But yeah, pretty significant changes. I've mapped this out in a template style format, you know, just for future reference, I guess. Like I say, I'm chatting with the folks at Airtekk and hoping to get this figured out with them. Right, we're in. This side, while knowing some tricks that I learned from the other side, did go in a lot smoother. That said, I have made one change here. You can see my airline is ran through here now. I had it kind of just coming through the wheel well liner before. I've moved that and put it in here. And now this is one of those changes that you realize as things are going back together. So obviously keeping this airline out of harm's way is one of the key components to an air ride system, and or not, you know, blowing out and losing all air pressure when you're on the road. So what made me do this is once I kind of mocked up where the line was going to be on, like, connect to the bag or the upper part of the air strut, I realized that as I turned, that line was going to bind and it was going to get all tied up in this brake line and whatever. So I pulled a little more line through the cab. Thank goodness I left myself a little wiggle room back there, and I ran it through the shock tower in a similar fashion to how it's ran on the other side. And now you can see how the line has room to move as the car turns. I also put this rubber grommet in there to keep it from, like, this split loom when it rubs against metal kind of makes a grinding noise. So anyway, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I got another one of those grommets just here in the shop that I'm going to put in there. So anyway, that worked out well. While I'm down here, one more thing. So the body of this strut is statically adjustable, right? I can wind the bottom mount here that mounts to the spindle up and down. I had a starting point from One Sick Fox there, my boy on Instagram. He started out here at 1.5 inches between his two locks. Now I've gone and measured actually from the body here to the mount down below. I figured that's probably going to be a more truer measurement. And I've gone out to about 3 inches. And now I'll give you an idea on the other side what 3 inches looks like. So that's full droop, like hung. Okay, there's like that spindle and wheel, tire, A-arm, the whole 9 yards is hanging from the shock tower right now, how the strut is bolted. So yeah, I think I'm good with this. Like, some of the things you need to consider while you're doing this is the overall travel of the strut. So I don't have any of these specific stats, but from what I can tell, just kind of eyeballing it, the shock within the strut, within the air shock, or pardon me, the airbag, and well, the air strut, whatever. The shock is inside the bag, right? And it has, like I say, from what I can tell, roughly about 4 inches of travel. So what you need to keep in mind is the happy point of that shock is about midway, right? So halfway through 4 is 2. So when this car is riding down the road, you want to be in and around that kind of 2-inch compressed mark of the shock. That way you can have your unsprung weight fly down, you can have a jounce come up at you, and the shock has the most opportunity to react and give you the best overall ride. So, given the other side there, I figured I'm probably going to, sorry, I'll take you back over there again. I'm definitely going to try and ride down the road a little lower than that. But, you know, I don't know how these bags are, like how many PSI I'm going to run. I don't know any of this stuff yet. So this is roughly where I think the lowest point that I'm comfortable with setting this system up. And then from there, I'm going to let the air do the rest. I'm probably going to come up about 2 inches, which would again put me right in that happy spot of where the shock needs to be. So anyway, guys, I hope I'm not rambling here. I'm just trying my best to run through this verbiage for you so you understand kind of what's going on here. Anyway, there may be some more adjustments here. Okay, I'll report back on all that, but what I'm going to have to do is obviously hook the lines up, set the car down, put some weight on it, air it up, find out where its happy point is. This is where it's going to take some messing around. It'd probably take me like a few hours worth of video to let you watch all that. But anyway, I'm just kind of telling you what I'm going to have to do. And then I will report back as to how this all pans out. Right, we are back together, tight, torqued, ready to go. Now, you notice my tie rod end is not attached to the spindle. And the reason being is I have a bump steer kit that I need to install. Now, I don't want to draw this particular video out any longer, so I'm going to do another video separate just on bump steer. Watch for a video link here. If there's no link, the video has not been uploaded yet, but there will be shortly. The next steps for this whole program is obviously the bump steer kit, but I need to test those front bags, make sure that they do not leak. And I need to tidy all this up. This will be the final push once I leak test the front and make sure they hold air. So stand by, we'll get this all tidied up, and then we'll do a full-blown 4 wheels on the ground, dry run, and see how this thing performs on air.
One eternity later.
All right, guys, I've been thrashing. I did all the boring stuff that you're probably not going to want to watch. So put the interior back in, tightened up my lower control arms, got my rear shocks adjusted, I think, right? I still have not moved the car. I've kind of aired everything up just so I could get it on jack stands. You can see right now I got the Jetsons floating car. I had to do that. It's a long story. Once you're in this aired up situation, you're kind of screwed. You have to air everything up or else you're driving your wheels into your wheel wells. And it takes, quite honestly, it was way more thinking than I initially anticipated. So whatever, it's been fun. I still got more stuff to put into. My rear sway bar is laying here. My passenger side exhaust is loose so I could get at my lower control arm bolts. But I'm here to show you more or less the final product. We're in, we're wired, we're tucked away. Probably could use a vacuuming, but yeah, everything in the trunk is done. For the most part, you know, fairly, maybe you see a couple of wires at a distance there, but it's about the best that I could find a way of doing. Man, there's a lot going on the back end of that solenoid and the tank and everything. It's goofy when you start tucking everything back in there. It takes a lot of thinking. Not a whole lot to see inside other than the interior is all back together. And like I showed you, my controller is going to be here. You know, reach under the seat, do my thing. You can still see my decks in detachable face status because I unplugged the battery. But what I'm going to do here is turn my light off, hook the battery up, and I'll bring you guys along for the full-blown dry run, okay? Anybody else do this? For those of you that still have a under hood light. Okay, so I'm still learning this too, guys, just so you know. Let's go to accessory. All right, everything's doing what it's supposed to do. Compressors are running. I have actually no idea how loud it is. It's not fully closed, but you definitely know something's going on back there, but it's by no means earth-shattering loud. So that's pretty cool. Jesus, those dingers. Okay guys, maybe what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stop this one. I'll let this fill. It takes a couple of minutes. While that's filling, I'm gonna put my battery charger on so I'm not beating the hell out of this battery. And I'll pick back up once we're full of air and we can air everything up, lift the hoist up, we'll get it on its own weight, and then I'll show you the kind of mess around with all of the switches controlling each one of the four corners. All right, we're back. Battery charger's running, compressors are off. Now, the key is still on accessory. And as you can see, we've got no air in any of the bags. Okay. All right. So this is pretty cool. I think I maybe chatted about this a little bit, but this here is your main switch. Okay, you want to air everything up. Okay. You air the whole car up by pushing that, or dump the whole car. Okay. This one here is just front. You'll watch the left gauge go up. This one here is just back. Okay. And then that's rear right, rear left, front right. Okay. So again, and then similarly on the other gauge. Oh, there's our compressor. Pretty wild, hey? So maybe what I'll do, just because we're kind of all over the place on this stuff, it's fully dump. Okay, and now again, I have not messed around with what the pressure should be front to rear. However, I do have, again, One Sick Fox on Instagram. He's given me like a little bit of a read on how he runs his car. So he told me front, he runs about 80. So let's run this up to right around 80. Geez, that's quick. Holy. Okay, 76, 77. Rear, we'll go up to, I don't know, let's start at 50. See where we're at. Now, I'm gonna hoist up the car. See, the slick part about doing it this way, at least from what I've been able to appreciate, is, you know, if you're lifting the car up, especially on a 4-post like this, you can watch and see if you're gonna slam your tire into your fender, right? So, better make sure I got no tools or anything in the way. No, I think we're clear. Okay, up we go. Okay, back's coming off the jack stands. We're officially in the air. I think all the jack stands are off. Yep. Okay. I'd say front's a pretty decent ride height. However, I don't know that I like the back. That was about where I rode in stock format before. So, best part about air, you just drop a little air out of your bags. Okay, so rear's at 50. Let's we're down to 42-ish. 43, 42. Front's right around 60. Yeah, that's not bad, hey? Now I'm looking at this from a ride height perspective. I have cranked up the dampening on every one of the shocks. So like I'm fully as hard as they can get. And the reason I've done that is I want to go out and test this thing in somewhat, you know, ridiculously low format and see how it does. I don't know, right? Like I'm just leaning on it there. Like it seems to sit there pretty good. Front's nice and low. Maybe, geez, I don't know. Maybe a little low, too low. Maybe not. It's going to take some messing around, right? But I wanted to give you guys a bit of an idea of how this all works and looks, right? And then obviously once I get everything figured out and everything bolted back together, I'll take you for a drive and give you the full-blown like ride-along review. Yeah, that back can still come down some more. Maybe what I'll do here, folks, I'll just mess with it a little bit and then I'll come back on and I'll give you like an aired out look at how I guess a person would leave it sitting in a parking lot if you wanted to be looking real low. But actually, you know what? Let's do this too. We'll air it right up. That's quick and easy and doesn't take a whole lot of farting around to do. So front. Geez, it goes up quick. Okay, that's probably as high as you'd ever want it to be. Back goes up a lot higher than the front, but I've also kind of adjusted the front so that I'm pretty close to like static height, whereas the rear is just a bag. So naturally that will go a lot higher. I could have adjusted this such that it got a lot higher, but you don't really want a high car, at least I don't. So that's probably, yeah, as high and hard as you'd ever want to be. Yeah, ready to haul some lumber. Well, the pressure switch is doing what it's supposed to do. Okay, that's front. You know what I should do, guys, just so you can kind of watch this? I'll layer it back up. And I'll put you guys over here and you can watch it. All right, guys. I mean, I'm a little gun shy because I don't want to start driving my tires into my wheel wells. I still got a little clearance there. I could probably go a little bit lower, but that is, for how much experience I've got messing around with it, that's probably about as low as I want to go right now. Okay, folks, I think this, at least install tutorial, is complete. Now, what I plan on doing is a follow-up video with regards to, you know, how does it drive, how does it handle, the overall difficulty of this. I think what I'll do is, while I'm on my drive with you and reporting back how the car handles and drives, I'll give you my thoughts on it then. It's probably still a little bit too fresh for me to do something like that. And I'm absolutely exhausted. I mean, the amount of time that it took me to think my way through this and, well, re-engineer a handful of things and whatever else, it's probably a little too soon to do something like that. So I will get back to you on all of that. First impressions, pretty cool, right? This is something I've wanted to do since I was like 18 years old. And here I am doing it at 43. So pretty cool. Another quick little tidbit here for those of you that have hung out all the way to the end. I just got word that tomorrow I get to run down and pick up my new deck lid. So we can get a look at what this thing's gonna look like without the spoiler on it. It'd be the first time for me, which is kind of neat, right? Had this thing since 97 and have no idea, other than trying to like block it out in my line of sight. I have no idea what it'll look like without the spoiler on it. So that's super exciting. And I think that's about it for now. I still have no updates on the supercharger. I'm still waiting on parts from Kenny Bell. Again, I've had some guys reach out to me and say that they've knocked on Kenny Bell's door and gone like, hey, we're excited to see this install take place. Would you get back to Castle Customs? He's chomping at the bit to get after it. So yeah, anyway, that is what it is. Now, actually, here's a quick little neat update. Over my shoulder, I have all the parts for the average Fox. So some of you longtime watchers, remember that black, is it an 88? I think it is an 88. LX hatch. Well, there's all the parts for it. So we're doing a rear disc brake swap, power steering. That thing's got a manual rack in it for whatever ridiculous reason. All kinds of stuff. That box right there is a 2-man lift. So there's lots and lots to come content-wise from that perspective. And then following up on this, I mentioned earlier, I'm going to have a bump steer kit video install. And I've also got the QuickTime alignment, which I still got all the boxes sitting over here. I still have not opened them. Here they sit. We're going to be doing an alignment on my car. Actually, I don't know if we'll officially be doing an alignment, but we will put it on the do-it-yourself alignment rack. I'll maybe leave that there for now. More on that later. Anyway, thanks a lot for tagging along, guys. I appreciate it. I hope this video helps some of you. And if it did, please send it along to others that you think it may help. That's why I do these videos. I love helping the community. So thanks for tagging along, guys. I really appreciate it. I'll chat with you in the comments. Take care. Bye for now.